Okay, so in this video we're going to look at how to get your ball to bounce properly. And we'll just start out by having it move in a particular direction, and we'll use the if on edge bounce. So we'll use a forever loop that starts with the green flag and a motion block where we just have it move a certain number of steps. So if you don't know which direction it's going to move in, if you go into your sprite with this little letter I icon, you can see this directional arrow. So I can see that mine's kind of going up and towards the paddle at this point. And I'll include in this little forever loop this if on edge bounce. And I'll click the green flag. So you saw it hit the paddle, it went right through the paddle. It's bouncing kind of properly for the boundaries of the game, at least the top and the bottom boundaries. Of course, it's not supposed to bounce off the behind the paddle on the left and on the right. And of course, it's supposed to bounce off the paddle too. So the if on edge bounce works for the top and the bottom, but it's not working for the other things. So how are we going to deal with this? So if you look on this, well, first of all, if it hits the paddle, we need to do a couple things. One, we need to find out that it's hit the paddle, and when it's hit the paddle, we want it to kind of bounce off in the other direction. So if the ball is coming at the paddle in this direction, it would hit the paddle and then it would bounce off in roughly that direction. And it doesn't bounce off back in the direction it came from. It doesn't kind of go off in any random direction. It bounces off in a direction where the angle that it hits the paddle at, the angle it's half the paddle is the same kind of in the other kind of up down direction. But it's kind of the angle of incidence equals the angle of reflection. I think we talked about that in class. So you can calculate that angle that's given in the online handout. If you look at it, there's a table, and when it hits the left paddle, this is the formula. Excuse me, minus 360 minus direction. So we'll use that. So how do we find out, first of all, if it's hitting the paddle? So if we go under sensing, we'll find a sprite here, touching. And if we click on it, we have a list of things we can sense whether that ball sprite is touching. And one of them is the other sprite I created, which is called player 1. So when the ball moves and touches it, I can use this within an if statement to do something like rotate it into a new direction. So I'll put that in here, and I'll have it change the direction, and I'll have it just right now it's going at minus 51. If it hits the paddle and it bounces off in the proper direction, it probably is going to go off. It should go off in the direction of roughly 50, positive 50 degrees. So I'll just change this in this block to 50. So it hits the paddle and it bounces off. So how do we calculate that? So it was minus 360 minus direction. If we go down, scroll down here under the motion, we have direction here. We have this block here, which you can actually click on to kind of print out, if you will. I'll turn this one off for a moment. So you're seeing the direction there. And I said you can calculate it using minus 360 minus the direction. So I'll go under operators. So I'll put minus 360 minus direction. And I'll put that in the point in direction slot. And I'll hit the green arrow. Okay, so it kind of, something didn't quite work right. I'll just you can see it's kind of getting stuck on the paddle. So something's not quite right. It did seem to bounce off at the right direction. There was a really good one. It didn't get stuck. So what's happening? So sometimes when it hits the, there it's done it again. When it hits the paddle, it's kind of moved in already a fair bit from the last position it was in. Remember, it's moving 7 steps each time. So maybe it was out here and moved right in. It changed direction, and then it went to move again, but for whatever reason that didn't move it off of the paddle, and it kind of ended up bouncing again. So you kind of saw it bouncing back and forth on the paddle before it kind of escaped. So what we'll do is we'll actually move it again. Once we've rotated it, we'll move it automatically right off the bat. We'll have it move. We'll see if that works a little better. So we'll point it back to the paddle, and we'll hit the green arrow. And it kind of got a little bit of an extra bounce there. That one looked fine. So maybe I might change that move 7 steps that I just added. I might turn the number down just a little bit, but it seems to be working fine. So that seems to have fixed that problem. So if you have that trapping problem where it's trapped, the kind of the bouncing is trapped into the paddle, try adding a little additional bit of motion in your loop. Okay, so that's the bouncing. So you've got the collision detection when it actually hits the paddle working. You've got a new direction that it's bouncing off in, and you're doing that by making use of these variables down here. So you should be able to have the ball working and bouncing off the paddle, and we'll look at, in the next video, we'll look at using some variables to detect whether it's gone out of bounds and to do some scoring.